Our farm is right up here, you can see, just beyond the power lines. When I was growing up, you know, in the summer times when I would come down and spend the summers here with my grandparents at the farm, we'd just walk down here to the church. When I come to this church and I hear the floorboards creak, I hear my ancestors, I feel my ancestors, and it's a really precious thing that I wouldn't have if I picked up and I moved somewhere else. It's something that I'm proud of. It's something that is a great source of strength for me, and it's something that I treasure and I want to continue. But you can hear that all over the community when it rings, and it just, they'd ring it for Sunday school, let everybody in churches start, come on down. Well, George Rausch was our first ancestor from Germany. They were German Brethren immigrants, and they settled in the Shenandoah Valley for half a generation during the Revolutionary War, and they served in the war to gain independence, and in return for that service, the government gave land grants to people for their military service. They didn't have money to pay, so they gave land grants. And the farm that I'm living on now was through a land grant for military service for fighting in the Revolutionary War. You can see the power plant back here. This power plant is Phillips Horn, and they have not put scrubbers on it, and I don't believe they have any plans to put scrubbers on it, but it is one of the worst sulfur dioxide emitters out there. And one of the things you don't think about too of living near the power plants, can you hear that sound? It's just like a roar. At night, sometimes when they let off the steam and they blow out the stacks, it's really loud. It sounds like I've heard it described as a jet engine. And I've been here before when it let off, and it kind of makes you jump back because you think you're being shot at or something. It's pretty loud. It's pretty loud. This is the farm that came through to our family through my mother's father's side. This is my grandfather Edson Rausch's farm. And when he was alive, this was a dairy farm, very productive. He set national production records on this farm. He raised registered Guernseys, and we used to have people that came from all over the United States to buy Grandpa's cows. And OSU used to come in and kind of joke about Edson's secret feed because the cattle were so productive. But really, he just treated them with respect. Treated them with respect and a good food grown right here from the farm. And more pictures of cows. And this is a really sweet one. These are chickens. The first thing that got my attention when I moved here full-time, when I set up permanent residence after my grandmother passed on, was how many people were getting sick with asthma and cancer. And I couldn't see any reason for it. And I didn't realize the number of power plants that we had here or their relation to our health. And when I discovered that, it was also at the same time that we started hearing about these multiple power plant proposals. And I think that in terms of siting issues alone, that this is an inappropriate place to build more. We have 4 power plants in a 10-mile radius. They want to put 2 more IGCCs across the river from us and on this side of the river. They're fitting the power plants with scrubbers so that now they can mine the coal from under us and around us and burn the high sulfur coal that there was no market for before. And I'm just appalled. I know that in the IGCC application they put in that they wanted to burn all high sulfur Ohio coal, cheap coal they called it. This is one of the reasons it feels so important to me to work with other people that are dealing with the coal issues in West Virginia and the other coal-producing states, is that our electric company is one of the largest consumers of coal in the Western Hemisphere, and they use a volume of mountaintop removal coal that is equal to what leaves the state of West Virginia, 25% of it annually. And every time I look at these coal barges, after I've been down there to visit with people and see what the mountaintop removal is doing to them, it just makes me sick. Because this stuff that's stacked up on these coal barges going 24/7 up the Ohio River is their mountains. 2 of the pieces of clean coal technology that they've proposed to try and get it so that the acid rain would stop impacting people in Canada and New England was to put on the scrubbers, which is not a good thing for our community because now it means they're going to mine the coal from our community. It's high sulfur coal. And the other thing that they did was that they chopped down the smokestacks about maybe, what, 300 some feet. And they did that because if they lowered the level of the smokestack, it would decrease the distance that the emissions would travel. And what that means for us is that all of that acid fallout is concentrated on our immediate community. And they're going to longwall on Bashan. Where does she live? Oh my gosh, I need to talk to her, because do you know when I look out my farm what I look at? Bashan Road. They put specifically, AEP in their application to the Public Utilities Commission was that they wanted to mine cheap Ohio coal to supply that power plant. And what that means is that they're going to be hiring labor as cheap as they can, they're going to be taking shortcuts on safety, and they're not going to be cleaning it up very good after they go. We have mining proposed that could potentially take our wells, our springs, our streams, and the river that you see here behind me is the water that repletes our drinking water wells if we go on city water. And I don't know, this isn't really water that I care to drink. It is really hard to farm without good water. And one of the things I want to do is farm organically. And if we have to depend on city water that's chemically contaminated before it even reaches us, then that kind of shoots it in the foot. And I'm also worried about the plants. You know, what does all this fallout from the power plant do to the plants? Heard about ozone problems, but we get a lot of fallout from the power plants, and I just wonder, you know, how much of the leaf damage is related to what's falling on us through the air emissions and in the rain. And you know, I don't want to have to move. I don't want my neighbors to have to move. And I can't imagine what's going to be left when we have got, you know, the 4 power plants that are already here, 3 to 5 more power plants on top of that. We're talking to 7 or 9 power plants total. Plus now they're going to mine all the coal out from under us and around us to supply these new clean coal technology facilities. Clean coal is not going to be good for our community. Well, you know what? There's 2 kinds of power. There's money and there's people. So I'm going to put my energy into rounding up people, and we'll see where we can get. What do you do when they're going to longwall mine under your house and they have the mineral rights and you have no legal rights? So, you know, sure, she'd love to stay and fight. She told me she doesn't want to go. But assuming that she wins and she is able to keep her land, and, you know, they mine in all the other areas around her, still, you have no water and your land and your home is damaged beyond use. So yeah, we're going to have the mining here, we're going to have the power plants here, and we're going to have the landfills. One of the things they're doing over at Cheshire right now, and it's going through on a general permit, and I'm just appalled, is they are opening up a huge landfill to take out the coal, and they're going to make a landfill for the power plant waste. Yeah. Well, it takes a pretty good sized landfill to hold all the waste that comes out of the power plants, the bottom ash, the fly ash, what's coming out of the scrubbers. And so they basically did like a, I guess in West Virginia they call it a valley fill. They exploded, you know, the tops off of a couple of mountains and created a landfill space in between. And it's filling up a lot faster, like I said, than what they had anticipated. And because of that, American Electric Power got a variance from the EPA, and they no longer even have to cover it up. Because if they cover it up with the dirt and take care of it the way they're supposed to, it makes the landfill fill up even faster. And so you can see how close these houses are. Every time there's a big wind that comes across here, it blows across these houses. And we have one neighbor who wrote to the EPA about this problem, you know, about what was blowing across the roads and onto the houses. And she got a written response back from them that these were fugitive emissions and that there was nothing that could be done. Now, I'm sorry, but I think of a fugitive as a criminal, an escaped convict. I don't think of it as power plant waste that is blowing across a home that nobody can do anything about. Fugitive emissions. If my grandfather had any idea of what this industry coming in would have meant, I know that he would have fought it tooth and nail. I don't think the people knew. They didn't have any idea what this was going to do. And this, I can almost see an E from this side. But every time you touch it, it flecks off a little bit more from the way it's reacting to that. To me, it's just like they're eroding our family history. They're taking our culture, they're taking our history, they're taking everything that is precious to us. And it's time for it to stop. Eventually, you know, my cemetery plot is right over on the other side of Grandma's. So we'll have 5 generations in this cemetery, and I'll show you the other one, which ironically is just about under the power plants over in Racine. And I think that you'll be able to see just from, you know, the location of the homes and the 2 power plants there, how absurd it is to even consider putting more power plants within that community. I don't care how clean that technology is, it's too much to ask. I love this tree. Isn't that an incredible tree?